my definition of a community keeper, I look at us as we're kind of the bond. We're the bond that we try to hold the community together. We try to make connections out here. We're trying to get everyone on common grounds. That's our job. Do you guys have a different definition?
No, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Thomas, I remember you were talking, we did like a video check-in after you had spent a day recording.
Yep.
And I remember there was a moment that day where at least I perceived it, where it seemed like you almost had like a shift in what you were recording. And like as you were kind of building up kind of these sessions and these sounds, and you started to talk about like how things were kind of connected. And I remember you shared a story about, maybe being, I don't know if it was over by the dam or down by the river, and there was like a duck, and there was like a splash with that. And just kind of the interconnectedness of these things that you were recording.
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay. Yeah. It was down at the what was it? The river, and yeah, there's wildlife. So I was actually recording the waterfall and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you have ducks and you have geese and you have birds that I don't know fly into the water at the same time. And you're recording and you're like, whoa, like I didn't think that interconnected with itself, but that itself makes sounds itself, which, and it's like what I've learned through the process of the audio and fixing the audio and going out there and talking to people is that sound builds on sound. Like it totally like, and it builds on thought too, because I listen to like a sound of a cop car and there's about 15 thoughts that come to that cop car, or like the fire trucks when they come, when you think of fire truck, you think of, oh, there must be a fire somewhere, probably in a building, probably, so it's like you're building a story with sound, with audio, as you go along, and it kind of builds on itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good. Thank you for sharing that. Shakur, did you have any moments like that where you were kind of, I guess, kind of these unexpected kind of connections? Because you described being a keeper, kind of being that,
Yes.
and that glue or whatever, bringing that together.
There was one, I was taking a dangerous route looking for sounds, okay? I cannot swim, and I was like right there by the river, and I'm climbing through the trees, like it's a steep hill. I didn't have on the right shoes, or I just had the tape recorder in my hand. It was a mess. But I made it to, it's like, I think it's under the bridge. I made it all the way under the bridge. And I heard the echoing. It was ducks, and they were splashing, and it was an echo to it. And I just found that interesting, because the ducks, it was already an interesting sound, and the echo made it sound better. Then a cop car went past, and I caught the sirens, but the sirens didn't sound like a cop car siren. It was almost hard to identify. Like I had to actually go back up to the top of the bridge and look for the cop car to find out what it was.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting, because it's like before we went to go mix and edit the sounds on the computer, they mixed themselves. They all connected.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Now, when you were doing the editing, because you had over 50 sounds that you had collected.
Yeah, maybe 100.
Yeah, 118. So that's even more. Yeah, that's quite impressive. What was that like? Because when you record, and how you perceive in a moment is really different when you kind of get to examine it again.
Yeah, I mean, we went through the process on a computer of sorting out the sounds. We wanted the best quality sounds for this event. We wanted the sounds that caught our attention the most. So after we recorded everything, we laid everything down and we listened to them one by one. And anything that put a smile on our face, anything that brought an emotion out of us, it was worthy. We used it.
Mhm.
We put it in the clip, and
Basically, any sound that generated interest.
Yeah.
we came to a point where we had to find a balance. We came to a point where we had to find a balance between indoor sounds and outdoor sounds, between loud sounds and almost unidentifiable sounds.
Mm.
And we found that balance. We went back to the clip and we edited it again. We went over it, and we added even more sounds than we had the first time.
Yeah. Now, Thomas, I remember you wanted to add. I had you review the session that Ashley and Shakur put together, and you said, "Okay, I really like this, but I want to add a little bit more to it." Kind of talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, sort of on the same line that Shakur was talking about, where it's like, you know, we analyze what's gonna generate interest. You know, some sounds I was, you know, as listening through the rough draft that we were doing, I was coming in and out of focus, so I could realize like with certain sounds, you know, because we have to record like I think it was like 3 minutes of that sound, like continuously for the project itself. So you'd have like be sitting there for 3 minutes, and then be like, okay, well, did it keep my interest for that long, you know, or did I lose interest and start looking somewhere, you know, not even really paying attention? So I noticed that some of the sounds were kind of redundant, you know, and they kind of sounded similar. So we wanted to have audio diversity, you know what I'm saying, where it was like we have inside sounds from, you know, what we, you know, opening the door to what the cafe sounds like to what Savers sounds like to what school sounds like to outside in our environment. So